Come, let us explore this dawn's meditation class and group practice that we too could meditate like a Jedi. Together, let's relaxingly recite the second passage of the unwaning victory banner, composed oh so many centuries ago by the great Buddhist reformer Vajra. Together, as its true meaning is already accomplished through love, great compassion is not practiced either. Supremely vast and deep, its attainments are beyond praise. So what this is saying is that when we practice foolishly, when we overfocus and overanalyze, compassion seems impossible. And let me show you why by switching over to a visual aid. When we over-rely upon our medial prefrontal cortex or our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to over-focus and over-analyze too much of the time, it can exhaust the front of our brain to such a degree that we begin presenting with symptoms of depression. Additionally, it triggers our amygdala, which is the seat of both anxiety and aggression. What happens when we give the front of our brain a break and rely upon the structures of our spinal cord, the autonomic nervous system, instead to notice and relax? It calms our amygdala and gently stimulates our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, which serves to use dread to strengthen our compassion and desire to strengthen our love. The structures of the spinal cord, known as the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, also together known as the autonomic nervous system or the Buddha nature, is the primary practice that is emphasized by the author of the root text. And so what's being inferred in this passage is that when we spend as little as 5 minutes or so every 12 hours playing with mindfulness and meditation, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, then love is an inevitability. It has been said that enlightenment is simply mastery of the Eightfold Path, and that mindfulness and meditation are the seventh and eighth folds of the Eightfold Path. And here's the cool thing. When we make mindfulness and meditation our primary practice, the remaining six folds of the Eightfold Path take care of themselves automatically as we sit in awareness and release. We can't help but notice change even if we try to ignore it. We can't help but notice changes in our circumstance or our body or our relationships or our mind. We cannot help but notice changes in sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, and scents. We cannot help but notice changes in our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Those changes might be external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. For those who practice mindfulness and meditation authentically, impermanence is not some abstraction or theoretical phenomena. It is in our face, like that drunk uncle at Thanksgiving who has no concept of personal space or mouthwash. I once dated a girl whose uncle was never met a cheap cigar he didn't like, and when he just got in my face, it smelled like a toilet. It was terrible. So let's get back to the root text. Let's see. I'm going to tap button 4. Okay, it is, as its true meaning is already accomplished through love. Great compassion is not practiced. So what's really important here is you're saying we don't have to contrive a practice of compassion. Those who were taught to overfocus and overanalyze, and that's how I began my journey, so I'm well acquainted with that, wind up getting cranky. And then they're told that they have to contrive a practice of love, either by performing a Theravadan practice of love, or a Mahayana practice of love, or a Vajrayana practice of love. Why do all three popular systems in Buddhism have contrived systems to generate love? Because their primary symptoms make people cranky. And so instead of saying, maybe we misunderstood the teachings because we're getting crappy results, they just slap a patch on it. Like a really lazy software developer. The great irony is that the contrived love generation practices of the Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana also rely on focus and analysis, and therefore generate more anxiety and aggression, not love and compassion. Let's go back once again to that visual aid. We can visualize love, but that's an analog of love. The love we want, real love, authentic love, spontaneous love, comes from the anterior cingulate gyrus. And yes, they're neighbors, but that don't mean nothing. When many people first discover sex, when many men first discover heterosexual sex, and when I say discover, I mean get to actually have some, they discover the proximity of their lover's vagina to their lover's anus. But if they get confused as to which orifice to use, there can be some real strife. The nose and the mouth are close together, but if you try putting lasagna up your nose, you're going to have a really bad time. So just because the prefrontal cortex is close to the anterior cingulate gyrus, just because the seat of focus and analysis is close to the seat of empathy, doesn't mean they are the same thing. It doesn't mean they're interchangeable. In a car, the accelerator and the brake are right next to each other. But if you push the wrong one when you're trying to slow down, you're going to get in a collision and hurt yourself or others. The late Tulku Thondup insisted that the highest love is the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit of mindfulness and meditation. The mindfulness and meditation that come to us not from the prefrontal cortex, but from the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. As its true meaning is already accomplished through love, great compassion is not practiced either. Supremely vast and deep, its attainments are beyond praise. So we do not, and this is weird, but some people think that by poetically praising the attributes of love and compassion, we automatically generate them as if they were real or imagined, as if they were the fictitious gods that so many children pray to at night in bed in the dark when they're scared of the equally fictitious monster under the bed. In fact, if one was to read a classic Mahayana text, the Bodhicharyavatara, there are multiple passages that laud the glory of love. But just reciting those passages won't make us loving. Neurologically speaking, empathy is the healthy response to our mirror neurons. When someone feels pleasure, we might feel pleasure. When someone feels pain, we might feel pain sympathetically. Consider, if you will, the Beatles. When they went to India and were exposed to sitars, and a sitar is wonderful. There are two sets of strings, and that upper string is plucked, and the bottom set of strings vibrate sympathetically. So we see sympathetic vibration not only in physics, but in medicine. We see it in neuroscience. That's how empathy works. So empathy is an involuntary response to the world around us, the world that we could perceive or imagine or recall. And when we experience a dread, we cannot help but wonder if other people would also like to be free from that thing we're scared of. When we experience a desire, we cannot help but think other people would like that too. So let me be specific. When someone hurts our feelings, we don't want anybody else to have hurt feelings either. When someone is kind to us, we want other people to experience the kindness of others as well. That's not a choice. It's an involuntary reaction to our mirror neurons. And it comes when we rely upon our autonomic nervous system. Now, it could be asked, am I being told not to think anymore, not to focus or analyze? No. What you're being told is that which might be useful on occasion is terrible if it's practiced 7/24 or 24/7. Well, then how do we know when to focus? How do we know when to analyze? Simple. The more we authentically practice mindfulness and meditation, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds will flow from a place of spontaneity, not scattered spontaneity, but centered spontaneity. Having completed our opening lesson, it's time for us to now shift gears. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After about 30 seconds of housekeeping, this is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering. the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, let's play with the latest iteration of very easy meditation practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. The most efficient way for us to gently gather our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce behind our navel is for us to rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. The easiest way to count our bonus set of 12 inhalations is to use our right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is how we count inhalations. And so the easiest way for us to practice mindfulness is for us to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this each time we feel our abdomen swell with breath. The easiest way for us to practice meditation is for us to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease each time we feel our abdomen sink. I just had a dreadful thought. Let me make sure that the sound is working. Okay. Just as we use the fingers of our right hand to count individual inhalations, we use the fingers of our left hand to count sets of 12 inhalations. First set, second set, third set, fourth, fifth, sixth set, and the like. It takes about 12 to 13 minutes to get through 12 sets of 12 inhalations, and so approximately every 12 to 13 minutes, I check for questions. So the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let's discuss love further. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything's sex. So that includes humans, even those who think themselves meditators. 90% will be foolish, only 10% will be wise. And in many spiritual systems and philosophical systems around the world, people try to coerce each other to do the quote-unquote right thing. However, love is not coercive. The foolish are all about being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. The wise are about being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So if our way of relating to others depends upon coercing them, bending them to our will, then in the words of Bugs Bunny, we have taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque. The more we overfocus and overanalyze, the less loving we'll be, neurologically speaking. The more we notice and relax in harmony with our autonomic nervous system, the more involuntarily loving we shall be. And so love isn't something we can force, but it's an excellent barometer. So for instance, if you're driving in a car, the speedometer does not control how fast you are, but it does show how fast you're going. So our love, our respect for others, our desire to be kind to others, even the ones we disagree with, is the speedometer which lets us know how effective our mindfulness and meditation is. As we inhale, we can passively watch the play of mind. As we exhale, we can relax into mind's non-graspable nature. The most efficient way for us to gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce at our chest is for us to rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. The most efficient way for us to gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce at our crown is for us to rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. As we feel air enter our nostrils, silently and mentally we can recite the demonstrative pronoun this as we practice mindfulness. The most efficient way for us to practice meditation is for us to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease as we feel our air exit our nostrils. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's dusk meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.